The great hall of the Galactic Council was silent. Not the usual quiet before important meetings, but a heavy, strange silence that made everyone feel uncomfortable. Ambassador Dong Min stood at the center podium, his dark suit looking simple, compared to the fancy robes and armor worn by alien delegates around him. He looked calm, too calm for what he was about to say. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," Dong Min began, his voice clear and steady. "I come before you today to deliver a message from the United Earth government and all human colonies across the galaxy." The reptilian Chancellor Vextai leaned forward on his golden throne. His yellow eyes showed mild interest. Humans always had something to complain about. They were young, after all, still learning their place. "Effective immediately," Dong Min continued, "humanity withdraws from all diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council. We are recalling all our ambassadors, closing all embassies, and ending all formal communication." The silence broke. Shocked voices filled the air in dozens of alien languages. The insect-like Hivara clicked their mandibles rapidly. The blue-skinned Aquilos made deep humming sounds of confusion. Even the usually calm plant beings called Verdans rustled their leaves in surprise. Chancellor Vextai raised one clawed hand for quiet. "Ambassador Dong Min, surely you jest. Humans cannot simply leave the council. You have duties, responsibilities." Dong Min smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "We have fulfilled our duties for 47 years. We have given the council our best scientists, our strongest soldiers, our brightest minds. We have followed every rule, respected every tradition, and honored every agreement." He paused, looking around the vast chamber. "And in return, we have been treated like children, like servants, like a species that should be grateful for scraps from the table of galactic civilization." The Verdian delegate, a tall tree-like being, named Silos, spoke in their musical voice. "The Council has always valued human contributions. Your species has earned respect through service." "Service." Dong Min repeated the word slowly. "Yes, we have served. We have solved problems others could not solve. We have fought in wars others started. We have built things others could not build. But we have never been equals." Hyun Soo, the Council's Terran Affairs Director, felt his stomach drop. He had worked with humans for 15 years. He knew this tone. This was not anger. This was decision. Final, unchangeable decision. "When humans ask for new colony rights, we are told to wait," Dong Min continued. "When we propose new technologies, we are told they need study. When we request equal voting power, we are told we are too young. 47 years and we are still too young." Chancellor Vextai stood up from his throne. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with scales that shimmered green and gold. "Young species must earn their place. This is the way of things. You cannot simply demand equality." "We do not demand it," Dong Min said quietly. "We take it." The chamber erupted again. Some delegates shouted in anger. Others spoke in worried whispers. Security Chief Mordan, a warrior from the fierce Cathari race, moved closer to the podium. His 6 arms were ready for trouble, but Dong Min just stood there, waiting for quiet. "This is madness," hissed the snake-like Silthak delegate. "Humans need the council. Your economy depends on galactic trade. Your colonies need our protection." "Do they?" Dong Min asked. "Or does the galaxy need human trade? Human protection? Human solutions to problems that have existed for centuries before we solved them?" Hyun Soo knew the answer. Everyone in that room knew the answer, even if they did not want to admit it. Human cargo ships carried 30% of all galactic trade. Human engineers maintained the quantum communication arrays that connected distant worlds. Human doctors had cured 12 different alien diseases. Human peacekeepers kept order in the most dangerous sectors of space. "You are making a mistake," Chancellor Vexatai said, his voice deeper now, more threatening. The Council has been patient with human demands, but this is rebellion. No, Dongmin replied, this is independence. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. I am now transmitting recall orders to every human diplomat, trade representative, and council employee in the galaxy. They have 72 hours to return to human space. The device beeped once, then twice. Then it began beeping constantly as confirmations came back from across the galaxy. Furthermore, Dongmin continued, all human trade ships are ordered to return to Earth or human colonies immediately. All scientific cooperation projects are suspended. All military support agreements are void. The beeping stopped. Dongmin put the device away. But surely, stammered the Aquilos delegate, surely, you do not mean to cut all contact forever? This must be negotiable. Dongmin looked at the water-breathing alien with something that might have been pity. The time for negotiation was yesterday, and the day before, and every day for the past 47 years when humans asked to be treated as equals. He turned to face Chancellor Vextai directly. Your answer was always the same. Wait, serve, prove yourselves, be patient. And now? The Chancellor asked, though he already knew he would not like the answer. Now we choose a different path, Dongmin said. Humanity withdraws not in anger, but in disappointment. We had hoped for partnership. Instead, we found patronizing masters who saw us as useful pets. He walked toward the exit of the chamber. Security Chief Mordan stepped forward to block his path, but Chancellor Vexatai made a gesture to let him pass. At the doorway, Dongmin turned back one last time. The galaxy is vast, he said. There are many species, many worlds, many possibilities, for friendship and cooperation. The Council is not the only path to the stars. He left. The great doors closed behind him with a deep, final sound. In the silence that followed, Hyunsu realized that everything had just changed. Not just for humans, but for everyone. The galaxy would never be the same. 3 months had passed since the humans went silent. At first, Chancellor Vexatai had expected them to come back within days. Humans were emotional creatures, he thought. They would calm down and return to the negotiating table once they realized how much they needed the Council. He was wrong. Captain Kite stared at the communication panel of his cargo ship. The voice from Centauri Station kept repeating the same message over and over. Human vessel. This is Centauri Station Control. You are cleared for docking at Bay 17. Your cargo of rare earth minerals is urgently needed. Please respond. Kite turned off the radio. He had been flying cargo routes for 12 years. He knew every space station, every trade port, every loading dock between Earth and the outer rim. But not anymore. His ship, the Morning Star, carried 3,000 tons of lithium, platinum, and rare metals that Centauri Station desperately needed for their manufacturing plants. Before the withdrawal, he would have docked without question. Now his orders were clear. No trade with Council worlds. Captain, his co-pilot Nam Su said from the navigation station, they are offering triple payment for the cargo. Kite shook his head. Orders are orders. Set course for the Harmony Trade Station. The Harmony Trade Station was not part of the Galactic Council. It was run by an independent species called the Zephyrians, who had always stayed neutral in galactic politics. More and more, Kite found himself dealing with such independent traders. As the Morning Star turned away from Centauri Station, Kite could see other human cargo ships doing the same thing, dozens of them, all carrying goods that Council worlds needed. All following the same orders. On the agricultural world of Verdania Prime, the crops were dying. The planet's irrigation systems had been designed by human engineers 5 years ago. They were complex networks of pipes, pumps, and filters that could turn desert into farmland. But now the systems were breaking down, and no human technicians were answering repair requests. Yunji had been the chief liaison between Verdania Prime and the human engineering teams. She had worked on the planet for 3 years, helping to feed billions of people across the galaxy. The local Verdans had considered her a friend. Now her office was empty. Her apartment was cleaned out. Even her personal communicator was dead. Administrator Brotel, a tall Verdan with bark-like skin, stood in Yunji's old office looking at the technical manuals she had left behind. They were written in human languages and covered engineering, concepts that no Verdan fully understood. "Have we found any other engineers who can fix the systems?" Brotel asked his assistant. "The Kethari have some engineers, but they want 5 times the normal payment," the assistant replied. "The Aquilos engineers say the systems are too complex for them to understand quickly." Brotel looked out the window at the fields. Already, he could see brown patches where plants were dying from lack of water. In 2 months, there would be famine. In 6 months, people would start leaving the planet, all because one human woman had left without saying goodbye. On New Sol Colony, the biggest human settlement outside of Earth, something strange was happening. The planet had always been open to visitors from across the galaxy. Scientists came to study human technology. Traders came to buy human goods. Diplomats came to meet with human leaders. Now, none of them could land. The Hyvara delegation had been trying to reach the planet for 2 weeks. Their ship, the Swarm's Pride, sat in space just outside the colony's defensive zone. Every time they requested permission to land, they got the same response. New Sol Colony is temporarily closed to non-human visitors. Please contact your local human embassy for information about future visits. But there were no more human embassies. They had all closed 3 months ago. Commander Kliktar of the Hivara clicked his mandibles in frustration. "This is madness. We have trade agreements with New Sol, legal contracts." His communications officer, a younger Hivara named Zekshi, looked up from her station. "Commander, I am detecting over 200 human ships around the planet. Military ships." "Military ships?" Kliktar moved to the viewing screen. "Show me." The screen lit up with tactical displays. Small, fast human ships patrolled the space around New Sol Colony. They were not threatening, but they were clearly watching, and they were armed. "When did humans build so many warships?" Zekshi asked. Kliktar did not have an answer. Before the withdrawal, humans had maybe 50 military ships total. Now there were hundreds, possibly thousands. Where had they come from? Back on the Council homeworld, Security Chief Mordan was asking the same question. "How did we miss this?" he demanded, staring at the intelligence reports on his desk. "Human colonies have tripled their defensive capabilities in 3 months. Their trade fleet has been restructured. They have new communication networks that we cannot monitor." Chancellor Vexa Tai paced behind his desk like a caged predator. "They were planning this for years. Years. While we thought they were loyal servants, they were preparing to abandon us." Hyun Soo, still serving as Terran Affairs Director even though there were no more Terran Affairs to direct, sat quietly in the corner. He had been studying human behavior and psychology for 15 years. He should have seen this coming. "The economic reports are getting worse every day," he said finally. 17 sectors are reporting supply shortages. Manufacturing is down 30%. Communication arrays in the Outer Rim are failing without human maintenance. "So we find other suppliers," the Chancellor growled. "Other engineers, other solutions." "It will take years," Hyun-Soo replied. "Maybe decades. The humans were not just workers in our economy. They were the backbone of it." A new voice entered the conversation. "Perhaps it is time to consider negotiation." Everyone turned to look. At Silthak, the snake-like delegate who had always been one of the harshest critics of human ambitions. "Negotiation?" Chancellor Vextai's voice dripped with disgust. "They walked away from us. They abandoned their duties. They broke their word." "Did they?" Silthak asked smoothly. "I have been reviewing the old agreements. Humans fulfilled every contract, honored every treaty, completed every assigned task. They simply chose not to renew their commitments. The room fell silent. They gave us proper notice, Silthak continued. They followed all legal procedures. They even left instruction manuals and training materials. Legally, they have done nothing wrong. Then what do you suggest? Mordan asked. Silthak smiled, showing his fanged teeth. We find out what they want, and we give it to them. But when they tried to contact Earth, they discovered something troubling. Humans were talking to other species, the Zephyrians, the Corvani, the Free Worlds Alliance, independent traders and neutral planets that had never joined the Council. Humanity was not isolating itself from the galaxy. It was isolating itself from the Council. For the first time in his long career, Chancellor Vexte began to wonder if the humans had been right all along. 6 months after the humans went silent, the galaxy was breaking apart. Tae Hyun had been the chief science officer for Galactic Communications before the withdrawal. For 8 years, he had maintained the quantum communication arrays that let distant worlds talk to each other instantly. The technology was complex, built on principles that took decades to understand. Most alien species could use the arrays, but only humans could fix them when they broke. Now the arrays were failing, one by one. On his private research station near Jupiter, Tae Hyun received emergency calls every day. Desperate voices from across the galaxy, begging him to help fix their communication systems. Dr. Tae Hyun, this is the Kepler System Emergency Coordinator, came one message. Our main array went down 3 days ago. We have no contact with the outside galaxy. Please, people are panicking. We need your help. Tae Hyun deleted the message without replying, just like he had deleted hundreds of others. His orders from Earth were clear. No technical assistance to Council worlds, but that did not mean he was sitting idle. His lab was busier than ever, working on something new, something better. A communication network that would connect every human world, every human ship, every human colony with technology that the Council had never seen. Soon, humans would not need the old arrays at all. The Aquilos homeworld was under attack. 3 pirate fleets had surrounded the water world, demanding tribute payments. Before the human withdrawal, such attacks were rare. Human peacekeeping forces had patrolled the space lanes, hunting down pirates with ruthless efficiency. Commander Jin Woo had designed the anti-pirate strategies that kept the galaxy safe. His tactics were studied in military academies across Council space. His fleet coordination protocols had reduced piracy by 90% in 10 years. Now Jin Woo was gone, and the pirates were back. Admiral Aquinar floated in his command center, watching the enemy ships on his tactical display. His forces were brave, but they were not strategists. They did not think like humans thought, plan like humans planned, fight like humans fought. Send another message to the Council, he ordered his communications officer. Tell them we need human military advisors immediately. Sir, the officer replied, the Council says they are working on alternatives. They cannot force humans to provide military assistance. Aquinar's tentacles curled in frustration. Alternatives? Pirates do not wait for alternatives. They are demanding half our annual food production. If we do not pay, they will bombard our cities. The enemy ships moved closer. Aquinar had 2 choices: pay the pirates or watch his world burn. Without human tactical support, fighting was suicide. He chose to pay. Across the galaxy, hundreds of other worlds were making the same choice. The pirates were not stupid. They knew the humans were gone. They knew the galaxy was defenseless. On the Council homeworld, emergency sessions ran day and night. The situation is critical, reported Security Chief Mordan. Pirate attacks have increased by 400%. 17 worlds have paid tribute rather than fight. The outer rim sectors are in chaos. Chancellor Vextai looked older than his 800 years. His golden scales had lost their shine. His proud bearing was bent with worry. What about our own forces? He asked. Stretched too thin, Mordan replied. We never needed large military forces before. The humans handled most peacekeeping duties. Now we have maybe one ship for every 50 that we need. Hyun-soo raised his hand for permission to speak. Chancellor, I believe we should consider direct communication with Earth. We have tried, the Chancellor snapped. They do not answer. We have tried official diplomatic channels, Hyun-soo said carefully. But there might be other ways. The Chancellor's yellow eyes narrowed. Explain. Before the withdrawal, I worked closely with the human diplomatic staff. I know some of them personally. Perhaps an informal approach. You want to beg, said Silthak from his position near the wall. You want to send our finest administrator to beg the humans to come back. I want to understand what they want, Hyun-soo replied. We keep assuming they will realize their mistake and return on their own. But what if they do not see this as a mistake? What if they see it as a success? The room fell silent. Nobody wanted to admit it, but the evidence was growing every day. Humans were not suffering from their isolation. If anything, they seemed to be thriving. Independent traders reported human colonies expanding rapidly. New settlements were being built on worlds that had never been explored. Human ships were seen in distant sectors making contact with species that the Council had never encountered. Humanity was not returning to the Council. It was building something new. Very well, Chancellor Vextai said finally. Make your attempt, but be discreet. We cannot appear weak. Hyun-soo left immediately for Earth, using a small, unmarked ship. He traveled alone, hoping that his old friendships might open doors that official diplomacy could not. But when he reached Earth's solar system, he found something unexpected. The solar system was fortified. Massive space stations floated near Jupiter and Saturn. Asteroid mining operations had expanded by 1,000%. Ships moved in careful formations, their designs unlike anything he had seen before. Unidentified vessel, this is Sol System Control, came a voice over his radio. State your name and business. Hyun-soo recognized the voice. It was Seo-jin, who had once been Earth's junior ambassador to the Council. Now she spoke with the authority of someone in command. Seo-jin, this is Hyun-soo. I am requesting permission to land on Earth. I come as a friend, not as a Council representative. There was a long pause. Hyun-soo. Seo-jin's voice was warmer now, but still careful. You are welcome in Sol System, but Earth is restricted. I can arrange a meeting on Luna Station. Luna Station had been a small research facility when Hyun-soo last visited. Now it was a massive complex that seemed to serve as a diplomatic and trade hub. Ships from dozens of species docked there, but none of them flew Council flags. When Hyun-soo finally met Seo-jin in person, he was shocked by what he saw. She looked confident, relaxed, even happy. This was not the defeated refugee he had expected to find. You look well, he said carefully. I am well, she replied. Better than I have been in years. No more begging for scraps of respect. No more explaining why humans deserve equal treatment. No more pretending that service is the same as partnership. The galaxy is in chaos, Hyun-soo said. Without human support, everything is falling apart. Seo-jin nodded sadly. We know. We hear the reports. It breaks our hearts to see suffering. Then come back. Help us fix things. Come back to what? Seo-jin asked. The same system that treated us like children? The same rules that kept us powerless? The same attitudes that saw us as useful servants instead of equals? She gestured toward the large windows that showed the bustling activity of Luna Station. Or should we go forward? Build something better? Create a galaxy where all species are truly equal? Hyun-soo realized that he was not talking to a desperate exile. He was talking to a representative of something new, something powerful, something that no longer needed the Council's approval. For the first time, he began to understand that the humans had not made a mistake. They had made a choice, And it was working. The truth came out by accident. Hyun-soo had returned from his meeting with Seo-jin more confused than ever. The humans were not angry. They were not desperate. They were building something new and they seemed confident about their future. But what had driven them to such a dramatic decision? Surely there had to be more to the story than simple frustration with council politics. The answer came when he was cleaning out his old files. As Terran Affairs Director, Hyun-soo had access to classified council archives going back 50 years. Most of it was routine diplomatic paperwork, trade agreements, and meeting notes. But buried deep in the security files, he found something that made his blood run cold. A secret project called Guidance Protocol. The files were marked with the highest security classifications. Hyun-soo should not have been able to read them, but his old access code still worked. As he opened document after document, he began to understand the terrible truth. For 30 years, the Council had been deliberately limiting human expansion. Every time humans requested new colony rights, the Council found reasons to delay. Environmental studies needed. Indigenous species protection. Regional stability concerns. All lies designed to keep humans contained in their small corner of the galaxy. When humans proposed new technologies, Council scientists were ordered to find flaws. No matter how minor, advanced human research was classified as potentially dangerous and buried in committee reviews that never ended. When human traders tried to establish new routes, the Council created regulations that made their business impossible. Permits that took years to approve. Fees that made profit impossible. Safety requirements that only applied to human ships. The goal was simple: keep humans useful, but dependent. Let them solve problems for the Council, but never let them become powerful enough to challenge Council authority. Hyun-soo found records of secret meetings where Council leaders discussed the human problem. They respected human abilities, but feared human ambition. They wanted human workers, but not human leaders. Humans reproduce too quickly, read one report from 5 years ago. Their colonies grow faster than any other species. If we allow unrestricted expansion, they could become the dominant species within 50 years. Another document was even more direct. Human technological innovation must be carefully managed. They show disturbing tendencies toward independent thinking. We must ensure they remain focused on Council-approved projects. But the worst discovery was a file labeled Operation Seedling. Da-eun had been a human cryptographer working for Council intelligence for 20 years. She was trusted, respected, and given access to some of the most sensitive information in the galaxy. Her job was to help protect Council communications from enemy code breakers. But Da-eun had found something she was not supposed to find. Hidden in the deepest security files was evidence of Council manipulation going back to first contact with humanity. The Council had never intended to treat humans as equals. From the very beginning, they had seen Earth as a source of useful servants, nothing more. The files contained detailed plans for keeping humans under control, economic policies designed to create dependency, educational programs that taught children to respect alien authority, even cultural exchange programs meant to make humans admire Council civilization while feeling inferior to it. Da-eun had spent months carefully copying the files, using her security clearance to access information that proved the Council's true intentions. Then she had done something that no Council member expected. She had smuggled the evidence to Earth. The data burst had been disguised as routine scientific information hidden in research reports about stellar cartography. By the time Council security discovered what she had done, it was too late. The information was already in human hands. Da-eun herself had disappeared. Council agents searched for her for weeks, but she had vanished completely. Later intelligence suggested she had been secretly extracted by human special forces and taken to a safe location. The evidence she provided had been the final piece of a puzzle that human leaders had been working on for years. They had suspected Council manipulation, But now they had proof. President So Young had called an emergency session of the United Earth Assembly. For the first time in human history, every colony, every settlement, every human government had participated in a single decision. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would withdraw from the Council immediately, but they would not withdraw from the galaxy. Chang Wu had been Earth's Director of External Communications before the withdrawal. Now he held a new title, Director of Galactic Relations. His job was not to manage humanity's relationship with the Council, but to build relationships with everyone else. From a secure facility on Luna, Chang Wu began broadcasting on independent frequencies that reached every corner of the galaxy. His message was simple but devastating. Citizens of the galaxy, his broadcasts began, you have been lied to. The evidence that Daun had gathered was presented piece by piece, day by day. Council manipulation of trade routes, suppression of technological innovation, deliberate limitation of colony expansion, secret agreements to keep younger species dependent on Council authority. But the broadcasts were not just about humans. Chang Wu had found evidence of Council manipulation targeting dozens of species. The insectoid Hivara had been prevented from exploring certain sectors because their rapid reproduction might destabilize the region. The aquatic Aquilos had been denied access to land-based colonies because their different environmental needs made integration impossible. Every species had been given reasons why they could not have what they wanted: environmental protection, regional stability, cultural sensitivity, galactic security. All lies. The truth was that the Council wanted to maintain the existing power structure. The founding species would rule. Everyone else would serve. As Chang Wu's broadcasts spread across the galaxy, something unprecedented began to happen. Species that had never cooperated before started talking to each other. Trade agreements were signed without Council approval. Joint exploration missions were launched without Council permission. The Verdans, still struggling with their failing irrigation systems, made contact with the Zephyrians, who had excellent engineers. The Hivara, who had been denied colony rights, for decades began working with independent human settlers to establish new worlds. Even some of the younger Council species began to question their leaders. The junior delegates started asking uncomfortable questions in Council sessions. Why were their expansion requests always denied? Why were their technological proposals always found inadequate? Why were they always told to wait, to serve, to prove themselves worthy? For the first time in galactic history, the Council faced organized opposition from within. Chancellor Vextai watched his empire crumble from his golden throne. Reports flooded in every day of species making independent agreements, ignoring Council authority, even openly defying Council orders. The Corvani have signed a mutual defense pact with 3 human colonies, Security Chief Mordan reported. The Free Worlds Alliance has grown to include 47 independent systems. Even some of our own member species are secretly negotiating with the rebels. Rebels, the Chancellor repeated the word bitterly. That is what we have made them. By trying to keep them weak, we have made them strong. By trying to divide them, we have united them. Yunsu sat in the emergency session, surrounded by the classified files he had discovered. The evidence of 30 years of manipulation, 30 years of lies, 30 years of treating other species like children who could not be trusted with power. What do we do? Asked Silthak, for once looking uncertain. Chancellor Vextai stood, slowly from his throne. For the first time in his long reign, he looked defeated. We tell the truth, he said quietly, and we hope they forgive us. But deep down, he knew it was too late for forgiveness. The galaxy had moved beyond the Council, and there was no going back. 1 year after the humans went silent, Chancellor Vextai did something that no galactic leader had ever done before. He admitted he was wrong. The journey to Earth took him 3 weeks, not because space travel was slow, but because his ship was. Stopped at every checkpoint, scanned by every security system, and questioned by every patrol that encountered him. The galaxy no longer respected Council authority. When his ship finally reached Earth's solar system, HFY was amazed by what he saw. The small human home system had been transformed into a bustling center of galactic commerce. Ships from hundreds of species moved between massive space stations. Trade routes that had never existed before brought goods from the farthest reaches of known space, and none of it needed the Council's permission. "Chancellor HFY," came a voice over his ship's radio. "You are cleared to land at Seoul Spaceport. President So-young will meet with you in 1 hour." The voice was polite, but not respectful. There was no ceremony, no special treatment, no acknowledgement of his rank or authority. He was just another visitor requesting a meeting. Seoul Spaceport was nothing like the Grand Council chambers where HFY was used to conducting business. It was practical, efficient, and busy. Humans and aliens worked side by side, loading cargo, maintaining ships, and processing the endless stream of travelers who came through Earth's busiest port. President So-young met him in a simple conference room with no decoration except a large window that looked out at the spaceport. She was younger than HFY had expected, and she did not seem impressed by his presence. "Chancellor," she said, offering him a chair that was too small for his massive frame. "Welcome to Earth. I understand you wish to discuss resuming diplomatic relations." HFY had prepared a long speech about the benefits of cooperation and the dangers of galactic division. But sitting in that small room, watching human and alien workers cooperating naturally outside the window, he realized that his prepared words meant nothing. "I came to apologize," he said instead. President So-young raised an eyebrow. "Apologize? For 30 years of lies. For treating your species like children. For deliberately limiting your growth and prosperity." HFY's voice was heavy with shame. "For making you feel like you had to leave the galaxy in order to find respect." "We did not leave the galaxy," President So-young corrected gently. "We left the Council. The galaxy is bigger than your organization, Chancellor. Much bigger." Through the window, HFY could see a group of young beings working together to repair a damaged cargo hauler. Humans, Verdans, Hivara, even some species he did not recognize. They moved with easy cooperation, solving problems together without any apparent hierarchy or command structure. "What do you want from us?" he asked. President So-young smiled, but it was not a cruel smile. "We want what we always wanted. Equality. Respect. The right to determine our own future." "And the Council?" "The Council can continue to exist if that is what its members choose. But it cannot continue to exist as it has. The old system is over, Chancellor. The question now is what comes next." She gestured toward the busy spaceport outside. "We have built something new here, not just humans, but dozens of species working together as true partners. No senior species, no junior species, just sapient beings exploring the galaxy together." Minho entered the room carrying a thick folder of documents. He had been working for months on the legal framework for what humans were calling the new Galactic Order. "These are our terms for participation in any future galactic government," he said, placing the folder on the table. "Complete equality of representation, democratic decision-making, public disclosure of all policies and procedures, and absolute prohibition on any form of species-based discrimination." HFY opened the folder and began reading. The terms were not harsh, but they were comprehensive. Every manipulation, every secret policy, every hidden agenda that the Council had used for centuries would be forbidden. "This would mean the end of the Council as we know it," he said. "Yes," President So-young agreed. "It would mean the beginning of something better." Over the following months, the transformation was painful but necessary. The old Galactic Council dissolved itself in a series of votes that were broadcast live across the galaxy. Some of the founding species fought against the changes, but they were outnumbered by the dozens of younger species who demanded equality. The new government was called the Democratic Federation of Sapient Species. Instead of a permanent ruling council, it had elected representatives from every member world. Instead of secret policies decided by a few powerful species, it had open debates and public votes on every major decision. Jay Young, who had once administered a small human colony, found himself elected as the Federation's first president by a vote that included billions of beings from across the galaxy. His first official act was to establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to investigate and publicly report on decades of council manipulation. The results were shocking, even to those who had suspected the worst. Evidence of economic sabotage, technological suppression, and political manipulation affecting nearly every species in the galaxy. But instead of seeking revenge, the Commission focused on understanding how such systemic abuse of power could be prevented in the future. Da Yun, the cryptographer who had risked everything to expose the truth, was awarded the Federation's first Medal of Galactic Service. She used her acceptance speech to remind everyone that democracy required constant vigilance. "Freedom is not something that can be given to you," she said. "It is something you must claim and defend every day." The changes were not immediate or easy. Some species struggled to adapt to true equality after centuries of either ruling or being ruled. Trade routes had to be rebuilt. Communication networks had to be redesigned. Military alliances had to be reformed on the basis of mutual cooperation rather than imposed hierarchy. But gradually, the galaxy began to prosper in ways it never had before. Technology advanced faster when species shared knowledge freely instead of hoarding it for political advantage. Trade flourished when routes were determined by economic efficiency rather than political control. Conflicts decreased when all species had equal voice in resolving disputes. 5 years after the human withdrawal, Ambassador Dongmin stood once again at a podium addressing a galactic assembly. But this time, the assembly was held on the neutral space station that served as the Federation capital. This time, every species had an equal vote. This time, no one was told to wait, to serve, or to prove their worthiness. "We gather here not as masters and servants," he said, "but as equal partners in the greatest adventure in the universe, the exploration of space, the expansion of knowledge, the growth of civilization itself." In the audience, former Chancellor Vextai listened carefully. He had been elected as the representative of his homeworld in the new Federation, but his role now was to serve his people, not to rule over others. It had been a difficult adjustment, but he had to admit that the galaxy was becoming a better place. Near the back of the assembly hall, Subin sat with her fellow cadets from the first integrated class of the Federation Space Academy. Humans, Verdans, Aquilos, Hivara, and dozens of other species learning together, training together, preparing to explore the galaxy together. Tomorrow, they would graduate and join the crew of the Federation's starship Harmony, the first vessel, designed and built by cooperative effort from across the galaxy. Their mission was to explore beyond the edge of known space, to find new worlds and new species, and to invite them to join the growing community of galactic civilization. But this time, any species they encountered would be offered partnership, not servitude, cooperation, not domination, a place at the table, not a position under it. As Ambassador Dongmin concluded his speech, Subin thought about how much had changed in just 5 years. The humans had not conquered the galaxy. They had not destroyed their enemies or imposed their will on others. They had simply refused to accept inequality. And in doing so, they had shown the galaxy that there was a better way to live among the stars. The applause that filled the assembly hall came from thousands of different beings, speaking hundreds of different languages, representing hundreds of different worlds. But for the first time in galactic history, they were all speaking with one voice, the voice of freedom, the voice of equality, the voice of a galaxy that had finally learned to treat all its children with the respect they deserved.